In the summer of 1897, 3 Swedish explorers set out on a daring and unprecedented mission to reach the North Pole by flying over the Arctic in a hydrogen balloon. Their leader was Andrée, a visionary engineer and aeronaut who dreamed of making history and advancing science, but his ambitious plan was doomed from the start and resulted in one of the most tragic and mysterious disasters in polar exploration. Andrée was fascinated by the idea of balloon travel since he was a young man. He believed that the wind currents could carry him across the frozen ocean to the unknown lands beyond the pole. He devised a system of ropes and sails to steer the balloon, and equipped it with scientific instruments, cameras, and a large gondola. He also secured the support and funding of the Swedish king, the Nobel family, and the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences. He was confident that his expedition would succeed where others had failed. Andrée's plan was to launch the balloon from the island of Spitsbergen, near the northern tip of Norway, and fly over the pole to Alaska, Canada, or Russia. He estimated that the journey would take about 6 days, and that he would be able to communicate with the outside world by dropping messages in metal tubes. He was joined by 2 young and adventurous companions, Niels Strindberg, a photographer and physicist, and Knut Frankel, an engineer and mechanic. Together, they formed the first and only Arctic balloon expedition. The expedition faced many challenges and delays before it could take off. The balloon, named the Eagle, was delivered from Paris without being tested and proved to be leaky and fragile. The weather was unpredictable and often unfavorable, and the hydrogen gas was scarce and expensive. Andrée also ignored the warnings and advice of experienced polar explorers, such as Fridtjof Nansen and Niels Ekholm, who doubted the feasibility and safety of his project. Andrée was determined to go ahead, despite the risks and uncertainties. On July 11, 1897, after a year of waiting, Andrée and his companions finally lifted off from Spitsbergen, cheered by a crowd of spectators and journalists. They waved goodbye and disappeared into the clouds, heading north. They hoped to see the pole soon and to land safely on the other side of the Arctic, but they never did. The balloon flight was a disaster. The steering system was ineffective, and the balloon was at the mercy of the wind. The hydrogen gas escaped rapidly, and the balloon lost altitude and speed. The temperature was freezing, and the ice crystals damaged the fabric. The balloon was also too heavy, and the explorers had to throw away some of their equipment and supplies. After only 2 days and 300 miles, the balloon crashed on the pack ice, far from the pole and from any land. Andrée and his companions survived the crash, but they faced a new and more perilous challenge: to walk back to civilization across the drifting and treacherous ice. They had little food, clothing, or shelter, and no means of communication or navigation. They had to drag their sledges and boats, and to cope with the cold, the hunger, the fatigue, and the despair. They also had to deal with the polar bears, the walruses, and the open leads of water. They kept a diary of their ordeal and took photographs with their remaining cameras. The explorers walked for more than 2 months, covering about 400 miles. They hoped to reach the islands of Franz Josef Land, where they might find some help or rescue, but they never made it. They ended up on a desolate and uninhabited island called White Island, near the northeastern coast of Svalbard. There, in October 1897, they died of unknown causes, possibly of exhaustion, starvation, or poisoning. They were only 25, 33, and 43 years old. For 33 years, the fate of Andrée and his companions remained a mystery. The world wondered what had happened to them, and many search expeditions were launched, but none found any trace of them. Then in 1930, a chance discovery by a Norwegian sealing vessel revealed the shocking truth. The crew landed on White Island and found the bodies of the explorers, along with their belongings, their diary, and their photographs. The evidence was brought back to Sweden, where it caused a sensation and a sorrow. The explorers were given a hero's funeral, and their story became a legend. Andrée's Arctic balloon expedition was a tragic failure, but also a remarkable adventure. It was a testament to the human spirit, the quest for knowledge, and the courage to face the unknown. It was also a lesson in the limits of technology, the power of nature, and the folly of hubris. It was, in short, one of the most fascinating and haunting episodes in the history of polar exploration.